Hi, I'm Allison. I used to believe family meant unconditional support, but sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. Allison sat across from her best friend Maya at their favorite coffee shop, fidgeting with her engagement ring, the only physical reminder of Carlos she had left. I still can't believe he did this, Maya said, reaching across to squeeze Allison's hand. Your own father. I keep replaying our last conversation before the wedding, Allison said, her voice barely above a whisper. Dad seemed so supportive when he helped with the venue deposit. What exactly did he say? He asked about Carlos's family, whether they'd be coming from Mexico. I told him they were working on travel arrangements. Allison's eyes clouded with tears. He nodded and said, I just want to make sure everything is legal and proper. I thought he meant the wedding paperwork. Did Carlos know your dad had concerns? Maya asked, stirring her untouched coffee. We discussed it once. Carlos said, Your father watches me like I'm going to steal the silver. I laughed it off as Dad being protective. Looking back, were there other warning signs? Maya asked, leaning forward. Allison stared into her coffee. So many. At Thanksgiving, Dad kept asking Carlos about his real intentions. At Christmas, he pulled me aside and asked if I was absolutely sure about the engagement. He even suggested I take a DNA ancestry test as a fun family activity. That's beyond suspicious, Maya frowned. What did your mom say about all this? She always smoothed things over. Your father just wants the best for you. He's from a different generation. Always excuses. Their conversation was interrupted by Allison's phone. She glanced at the screen and grimaced. It's him again. Third time today. Are you going to answer? Not yet. I need to understand why first. Allison silenced the call. Carlos had his green card application in process. Everything was legitimate. Dad knew that. Have you spoken with Carlos? Maya's voice was gentle. His lawyer says he's being held at a detention facility. They're fighting the deportation order, but... Allison's voice broke. They claim someone provided evidence that his documentation was falsified. And you think your father... I know it was him, Allison cut in. My brother Jackson confirmed it. Dad was bragging about saving me from making a terrible mistake. Did Jackson confront him about it? He tried. Dad just said, You'll understand when you're older. Sometimes being a parent means making hard choices, as if destroying my life was his right. Maya's expression hardened. What are you going to do? Allison straightened her shoulders, determination replacing grief in her eyes. First, I'm going to find out exactly what my father did. Then I'm going to make sure Carlos gets justice, and that my father never interferes in my life again. Miss Allison Chen? The immigration attorney looked up from her desk as Allison entered the office. Yes, thank you for seeing me on short notice, Miss Rodriguez. Please, call me Elena. Carlos's case is particularly concerning. The evidence presented to immigration officials was meticulously prepared. Allison leaned forward. What kind of evidence? Documents suggesting Carlos misrepresented his employment history and educational background, plus statements claiming his relationship with you was arranged for immigration benefits. Elena paused. The paperwork had access to details only someone close to you both would know. My father, Allison whispered. You mentioned that possibility on the phone. Do you have proof? Allison pulled out her phone. My brother sent me these texts from our family group chat. Dad told everyone he'd handled the situation before I made a terrible mistake. Elena studied the messages. This is helpful, but we need more. Your father is well connected in local politics, correct? Yes. County commissioner for 8 years. He's friends with everyone from judges to the police chief. That explains the rapid response from ICE. Elena made notes. We need to establish a pattern of prejudice and document exactly how he interfered. How do we do that? Allison asked, anxiety creeping into her voice. We'll need statements from people who witnessed his behavior toward Carlos. Friends, family members, anyone who saw his prejudice firsthand. My brother would definitely help. And Carlos's coworkers heard my dad questioning his employment status when he visited Carlos's office. Perfect. We'll also need to document all communication between your father and immigration officials. That's going to require subpoenas. Will that be difficult given his connections? Challenging, but not impossible, Elena replied with determination. People like your father believe their power shields them from consequences. That makes them careless. Allison's phone buzzed. It's my mother. She's been trying to mediate. You should take it, Elena suggested. We need all the information we can get, Allison answered. Hi, Mom. Allison, please come home. Your father is devastated that you've cut him off. Devastated? He destroyed my future with Carlos. He was protecting you. Carlos wasn't who you thought. Stop it, Mom. Carlos's lawyer says someone manufactured evidence against him. Someone with inside information about our relationship. A long pause followed. Your father would never what? Lie? Manipulate? Call immigration on the man I love? Because he did all of that. He had concerns. He had prejudices, Allison interrupted. And now I need to know exactly what he did. I don't know the details, her mother said, voice small. He made some calls to his friend at Homeland Security. He was so certain Carlos was using you. Based on what? His last name? The fact that he wasn't born here? Allison, please. Your father loves you. If he loves me, he'll fix this. Tell him I know what he did, and I'm going to fight him every step of the way. After hanging up, Allison looked at Elena. My mother confirmed he contacted someone at Homeland Security. Elena nodded. That's a start. We need to document everything. And I suggest you speak with your brother Jackson again. See what else he knows. I will. But there's something else I need to do first. Allison's expression was resolute. I need to see Carlos. The detention facility was cold and sterile. Allison sat at the visitation table, heart racing as the door opened and Carlos entered, escorted by a guard. Allison. His voice cracked as he sat across from her. Carlos, I'm so sorry. Tears welled in her eyes. My father... I know. Carlos reached for her hand but stopped, remembering the no-contact rule. Your brother Jackson called me. He told me everything. We're fighting this. Elena Rodriguez is building a case. They're saying I falsified my work history, that our relationship is a fraud. Carlos's eyes, usually warm and bright, were hollow with exhaustion. Your father provided them with emails, photos, everything twisted to look suspicious. I don't understand how he could do this. I think I do. Carlos leaned forward. 2 weeks before the wedding, he asked to meet me for lunch. Said he wanted to welcome me to the family. Allison frowned. You never mentioned this. Because it wasn't a welcome. It was an interrogation. Then an offer. Carlos's jaw tightened. He offered me money to leave you. Said if I truly loved you, I'd walk away rather than trap you with someone from my background. He what? Allison's voice rose, drawing a warning look from the guard. I told him I would never leave you, that we loved each other. He smiled and said, We'll see about that. That's why he was so calm at the rehearsal dinner. Allison's hands curled into fists. He already had this planned. Your father is a powerful man, Allison. The guards here know him. The officials processing my case know him. I don't care how powerful he is. What he did was illegal. The door opened, and an officer stepped in. Time's up. Carlos, I promise you. Don't make promises, Allison. Carlos stood slowly. Your father thought he was protecting you. Maybe in some twisted way. Don't defend him, Allison cut in sharply. What he did was unforgivable. Miss Chen? A different voice came from the doorway. Allison turned to see her father standing there, his county commissioner badge visible to the guards. What are you doing here? Allison demanded, rising to her feet. I came to make things right. Richard Chen stepped into the room, nodding at the guards who seemed to know him. Carlos, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Carlos's voice was controlled but tight with anger. You reported false information to have me detained. Dad, how could you do this? Allison moved between them. I was wrong, Richard said, his expression unreadable. I'd like to withdraw my statement. It doesn't work that way. Carlos replied. Once you set this in motion, I have considerable influence. Influence you used to destroy our lives, Allison shouted. I thought I was protecting you, Richard insisted. But seeing you this devastated, I want to make amends. Amends? Allison laughed bitterly. You can't undo this damage. Carlos might be deported because of your lies. I was trying to save you from making a mistake you'd regret for the rest of your life. Richard's voice hardened. You're young. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Allison interrupted. You never saw Carlos as a person. From the moment you met him, you saw a stereotype, a threat. That's not true, Richard protested. I was concerned about his intentions. His intentions? Carlos stepped forward. I loved your daughter enough to endure your suspicion, your thinly veiled insults, your constant questioning of my character. What were your intentions when you fabricated evidence against me? I didn't fabricate. I simply raised concerns about inconsistencies. Lies. Allison slammed her hand on the table. You lied to destroy our relationship because you couldn't accept that I chose someone you didn't approve of. I can fix this, Richard pleaded. I've spoken with the director. I don't want your help, Carlos interrupted. And neither does Allison. You don't speak for my daughter, Richard snapped, his conciliatory tone vanishing. Neither do you, Dad. Allison stepped closer. You don't get to wreck my life and then play hero by fixing what you broke. This conversation is over. Richard turned to leave. Carlos, I apologize for the inconvenience. I'll see what I can do. Inconvenience? Allison moved to block her father's path. You had him arrested days before our wedding. Richard's face darkened. I did what I thought was best. You did what was easiest for you. What fit your prejudice? You're being dramatic, and you're being recorded. Allison pulled out her phone. I've been recording since I arrived. Every word you've said is evidence of your interference. Richard's face paled. That's illegal. Actually, Carlos interjected, in this state, only one party needs to consent to recording. Allison consents. Richard's composure cracked. You can't use that against me. I'm trying to help now. Too late, Allison said coldly. We'll see you in court, Dad. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters as Allison, Carlos, and Elena emerged into the sunlight. After 6 grueling months of legal battles, the judge had ruled in their favor. Miss Chen, how does it feel knowing your father faces ethics violations and potential criminal charges? A reporter called out. Elena stepped forward. My clients are grateful for the court's decision today. Commissioner Chen's abuse of power to interfere in his daughter's relationship was not only morally wrong but illegal. The court has recognized this and ordered appropriate remedies. Allison spotted her brother Jackson waiting at the bottom of the steps with Maya. She squeezed Carlos's hand as they made their way through the crowd. You did it, Jackson said, embracing them both. I never thought Dad would face consequences. He's still denying everything, Maya added. Your mom called this morning, begging me to convince you to drop the charges. Even after the evidence? Allison shook her head. The texts, the recordings, his friend at Homeland Security testifying. Some people can't admit when they're wrong, Carlos said quietly. Especially when being wrong means confronting their own prejudice. What happens with his position now? Jackson asked. The ethics committee has called an emergency meeting, Allison explained. They'll likely remove him. Do you think Mom will finally see the truth? Maya wondered. Allison sighed. I don't know. She texted this morning saying Dad was just trying to protect the family. She still doesn't understand that he was the threat all along. Miss Chen. A familiar voice called. Richard Chen approached, looking much older than he had 6 months ago. Don't, Jackson warned. He's not supposed to contact you directly. 2 minutes, Richard pleaded. Without the lawyers. Allison hesitated, then nodded to the others. It's okay. I'll handle this. When they stepped aside, Richard spoke softly. The ethics committee meets next week. I'll likely lose my position. You abused your position, Allison replied evenly. Actions have consequences. I know I was wrong, Richard's voice cracked. I've lost everything. my reputation, my career, my daughter. You made choices, Dad. Multiple choices over and over that hurt people I love. I'm sorry, Allie. Truly sorry. Tears filled his eyes. Can we at least talk about rebuilding our relationship? You're still my daughter. Allison studied her father's face, the face she'd once trusted completely. No, Dad. We can't. Please, Allison. Family is everything. I made a terrible mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate campaign to destroy my relationship because you couldn't accept who I chose to love. I've changed, Richard insisted. These months have shown me how wrong I was. What's changed is that you got caught and faced consequences. Allison's voice was firm, but not cruel. Maybe someday I'll be ready to have a conversation about this, but not today, and not soon. Richard's shoulders slumped. What can I do to make this right? Nothing. Some things can't be fixed with an apology. Allison stepped back. Goodbye, Dad. She returned to Carlos and the others, leaving Richard alone on the courthouse steps. What did he want? Carlos asked gently. Forgiveness, Allison replied, but some betrayals cut too deep. Maya linked her arm through Allison's. What happens now? We're having dinner with Carlos's parents next weekend, Allison said, smiling at Carlos. They're flying in to meet me properly. And we've set a new wedding date, Carlos added. 6 months from now. Will you invite your mom? Jackson asked hesitantly. Allison exchanged a glance with Carlos. We're still deciding. She knew what Dad was doing and stayed silent. That's its own kind of betrayal. You know, Maya said, after everything that happened, I'm amazed at how you two kept fighting. Most couples wouldn't have survived this. We almost didn't, Carlos admitted. There were days in that detention center when I thought it would be easier for everyone if I just signed the deportation papers. What changed your mind? Jackson asked. Carlos looked at Allison. She visited every single day, brought legal documents, research, plans, never gave up. How could I give up when she was fighting so hard? We've learned who truly stands with us, Allison said, looking at her small circle of support. And that's worth more than any relationship based on obligation or blood. To justice, Jackson said, raising an imaginary glass. And to choosing your own path, Carlos added, squeezing Allison's hand. To new beginnings, Allison smiled. And to the family we choose. The small group walked away from the courthouse, leaving behind both the media circus and the broken relationship with Allison's father. Some bridges, once burned, should remain ashes, a reminder of the cost of betrayal and the value of standing firm for love and justice. Have you ever had to stand up against someone you loved because they betrayed your trust? How did you find the strength to hold them accountable? Share your thoughts in the comments below.